never thought I'd watch my own home turn into an inferno. Flames were tearing through the walls I'd painted, the rooms I'd built memories in, the place I called safe. And yet, as I stood there, numb, clutching my phone with trembling hands, I saw her, Karen, the president of our HOA, standing across the street. No panic, no shock, just this smug little smirk, like she was watching a show she'd been waiting for. That night, I lost everything. But what I didn't know was that 7 days later, I'd see her again, not on the street, not at a meeting, but walking confidently through the doors of my courtroom as if nothing had happened. And that's when I realized the fire was just the beginning. I live in a quiet suburban neighborhood, or at least, it used to be quiet. Tree-lined streets, neatly trimmed lawns, and mailboxes that all matched because the HOA said they had to. It was the kind of place where you'd think drama meant someone's recycling bin blew over in the wind. But behind the white picket fences and manicured hedges, there was a different reality, one controlled by the HOA board. And at the center of it all, Karen. She didn't just enforce the rules. She lived for them. Your grass is half an inch too long. Fine. Your shutters aren't the approved beige. Violation notice. Once, she fined my neighbor because his welcome mat had too much personality. So when I got a letter from her saying my front porch was unsightly, I wasn't surprised. Annoyed? Yes. Surprised? No. What I didn't know was that this little paper notice was about to snowball into something much worse. It was a Tuesday. I remember because I was halfway through my shift at work when my phone buzzed. 3 missed calls from my neighbor, and then a single text that made my stomach drop. Your house is on fire. I froze. I thought maybe they meant a small kitchen fire, maybe an electrical issue. But when I pulled up the street 20 minutes later, my heart sank. Thick black smoke rose into the sky, the smell of burning wood and plastic choking the air. Fire trucks lined the street, hoses snaking across lawns, spraying what was left of my home. The place I'd lived for 10 years, reduced to a smoking shell. I stumbled toward the fire chief, my voice shaking. What happened? He hesitated, then told me. Witnesses saw a woman in a bright pink jacket near my porch earlier, pouring something, and then flames. My mind flashed instantly to one person. Only one person in this neighborhood wore that ridiculous neon pink windbreaker year-round. Karen. The fire marshal pulled me aside once the last flames were out. They'd already determined it wasn't an accident. There were clear traces of accelerant, and the burn pattern matched intentional ignition. That meant one word: arson. Police officers began going door to door, speaking with neighbors. Within hours, they had 3 separate eyewitness accounts. All of them described the same person. A woman, mid-50s, short blonde hair, neon pink jacket, pacing near my porch just before the fire started. I didn't even have to say her name. The officers already knew who I meant. Karen had a long history with the HOA, and a longer history with me. Security camera footage from 2 houses down sealed it. At 11:42 a.m., you could see her walking up my driveway carrying a red gas can. At 11:44, she left, without the can. And at 11:46, smoke began to rise. Detectives told me they'd be making an arrest soon. But what I didn't know was how fast this would escalate and how bold Karen would be in the days to come. 3 days later, my phone rang. The detective's voice was calm, almost casual. We've arrested her. She's being charged with arson and reckless endangerment. Relief washed over me, but it lasted all of 48 hours. Because when I walked into the courthouse for the initial hearing, there she was, not in an orange jumpsuit, not in handcuffs, but sitting confidently at the plaintiff's table. For a second, I thought I was in the wrong room. Then my attorney leaned in and whispered, "She's suing you." I almost laughed out loud. Suing me? For what? Her claim that my neglected landscaping and flammable clutter in the backyard were a fire hazard, and that the emotional stress of seeing my property in such a state caused her mental anguish. The sheer audacity left me speechless. Here I was, with my home in ashes, dealing with insurance nightmares, and the very woman charged with burning it down was now trying to make me the villain in court. But what happened next turned the entire case on its head and left the entire courtroom in stunned silence. The courtroom was tense, the kind of silence where even a cough would feel out of place. Her lawyer stood up first, painting her as some poor, traumatized neighbor who had feared for her safety because of my property. He gestured dramatically, as if I had been hoarding barrels of gasoline and playing with matches in my backyard. I sat there, clenching my fists, until my attorney rose for cross-examination. "Mrs. Daniels," he began, voice calm but with a razor edge, "would you say you've always had strong feelings about my client's home?" She shifted uncomfortably. "I care about community standards, yes. And would you also say," he continued, "that those feelings have led to multiple HOA complaints over the years?" Her face tightened. "That's irrelevant." "Actually, it's very relevant," my attorney replied, flipping through a thick binder, "because here we have 34 separate complaints you filed against my client in the past 18 months. A murmur swept through the courtroom. "And," he added, pulling out a single sheet of paper, "we also have footage from a Ring camera, not my client's, but another neighbor's, showing someone matching your description entering my client's property the night of the fire, holding a gas can. Gasps erupted. Her lawyer froze. She went pale. And in that moment, I knew the case had just turned completely in my favor. The judge leaned forward, his tone sharp but measured. Mrs. Daniels, this court has seen enough. The evidence is overwhelming. She tried to speak, maybe to explain, maybe to plead, but he cut her off. What you did was not only a blatant violation of property rights, it was criminal trespass and reckless endangerment. This case is dismissed in favor of the defendant. The gavel came down with a sharp crack. Just like that, months of stress, lawyer meetings, and sleepless nights ended in one decisive moment. The HOA president wouldn't meet my eyes. Neighbors who once sided with her were suddenly keeping their distance. And Mrs. Daniels? Let's just say she left the courtroom faster than I'd ever seen her walk. No smug smile this time. No sideways glances. Within weeks, she resigned from the HOA board. The association quietly updated its bylaws, adding clear rules against unauthorized entry onto private property. For me, the victory wasn't just about clearing my name. It was about sending a message, loud and clear, that no one, not even the most powerful HOA board member, is above the law. When I first moved into this neighborhood, I thought the HOA was there to protect us, to keep things fair and orderly. What I didn't expect was that one person's ego could turn that system into a personal weapon. But here's what I learned. Bullies don't always show up on playgrounds. Sometimes, they're wearing blazers, carrying clipboards, and calling themselves community leaders. If someone crosses the line, even someone in power, you have every right to stand up for yourself. Document everything. Know your rights, and don't be afraid to take the fight all the way if you have to. Because in the end, this wasn't just about my driveway or my property. It was about drawing a line in the sand and saying, you can't just walk over people. I walked out of that courtroom with my head high. Not just because I won, but because I proved that standing your ground is worth it. Every single time.